Today I am again here with the same topic, atmosphere, continuation of the chapter, atmosphere, second chapter, with the topic wind, subtopic of the chapter. As I already told you in my previous class, pressure belts and winds. And in our previous class we have discussed about the pressure belt. So this wind is very much related to the pressure belt or pressure. Wind is in our class, previous class, I missed some of the important points like this pressure belt. While explaining this pressure belt, there is a low pressure center at the equator, and this low pressure center, how it creates this, I already explained, but I forgot to tell you the important thing, that is doldrums. This equatorial low pressure is also known as doldrums because of the absence of wind, and this is a region of calm. And another important thing, that is horse latitude. This subtropical high pressure belt is known as horse latitude. The explanation of the term horse latitude is that during the time of sailing ships, when the new technology was not there like aviations and all, people used to travel from one place to another by water, by ships and all, and the horse carrying from Europe to America, the ship because of the absence of wind, to avoid the prolonged journey, to avoid the shortage of food and drinking water, the sailors used to throw the horses onto the ocean. That is why, because of the absence of wind. So to make the wind light, to make the ship lighter, the sailors to throw horses onto the oceans. That is why this latitude is known as horse latitude. These 2 points I forgot to mention in my previous class. And another important thing is this pressure is in the world map. It is shown with the help of the line. This line joining the places having equal air pressure is known as isobars. Isobars. These are the concentric circles of lines which shows the pressure gradient. If the lines are closely spaced, if it is closely spaced, it means that the wind is strong. Why I am telling you this is because pressure is related to wind. So, if the pressure isobars are widely spaced, if the gaps between the two bars are wide, then the wind is gentle. This is the main thing I forgot to tell you in my previous class. So today we will start with the topic wind. Wind is nothing but the horizontal movement of air. Air in motion is called wind. And why air moves? The cause for the formation of wind is the unequal heating of the land and water, or unequal heating of different places, which results in the formation of unequal or differential in pressure, like the low pressure, high pressure. So wind always blows from high pressure to low pressure. Wind always blows from the region of high pressure to the region of low pressure. Wind always blows from the region of high pressure to the region of low pressure. And before going to the different types of winds, we have to know or learn some important terms about the wind, like from where it blows. So, and one more thing, wind gets its name from its direction of flow, from where it is coming. One important thing, that wind always blows from high pressure to low pressure. Another important thing is wind gets its name from its direction. And our students knows the simple thing, the directions, the simple directions: north, south, west, east. 4 cardinal directions are north, south, east, west. If again we divide, or we precisely want to know other directions, we have northeast, southeast, southwest, northwest. This much is enough for the wind. The directions, important directions, the students have to know. If the wind is coming from this side, that the name will be northeast wind, southwest, southeast, northeast, like this they get their name. Another important thing is the instrument. The instrument which gives the direction of wind is wind vane. Wind vane or wind vane gives us the direction of a wind. And another instrument is called anemometer. Anemometer, it gives the velocity of a wind or the speed of a. As I already told you, it depends on the pressure gradient. If the pressure gradient is steep, the velocity will be high, and if the pressure gradient is gentle, the velocity will be low. These are the basic things. Before proceeding to the next topic, the student should know what is wind. Wind is the horizontal movement of air. The wind always blows from high pressure areas to low pressure areas. Wind gets its name from its direction. And the wind does not move in a straight line. The factors, the effect, that is the Coriolis force. This Coriolis force is generated by the rotation of the Earth. Rotates on its axis in one whole day, and this rotational force, just like the merry-go-round, we see the horses or that deflates from its path. Just like that, any moving object deflates towards the right in the northern hemisphere, and in the southern hemisphere they deflect towards the left. This rule is known as Farrell's law. Which force? That is Coriolis force, and the rule is Farrell's law. This one is also very important in Madhyamik examination. The moving by wind or ocean currents deflects towards the right in the northern hemisphere from its straight path, and towards the left in the southern hemisphere because of the Coriolis force, and this is known as Farrell's law. Let's move on to the next topic, that is types of winds. For Madhyamik syllabus, types of winds, that is number 1 is planetary winds, or these winds are also known as permanent winds. Next, number 2 is periodic winds, number 3 local winds, and number 4 sudden winds. These are the 4 main types of winds: planetary winds, periodic winds, local winds, and sudden or irregular winds. These planetary winds are 3 types: trade, westerlies, and polar easterlies. Trade winds, westerlies, and polar easterlies. Periodic winds are of 5 types: land breeze, sea breeze, monsoon wind, mountain winds, and valley winds. Land breeze, sea breeze, monsoon wind, mountain winds, and valley winds. Local winds are 2 types of, that is warm wind and cold wind. Warm and cold. Sudden or irregular winds are of 2 types, they are cyclones and anticyclones. As I already told you, the main factor which affects the air to move is high pressure and low pressure, and this high pressure and low pressure is created by the temperature difference. There is an inverse relationship between temperature and pressure that I already told the students in my previous class. Where there is high temperature, there prevails low pressure, and where there is low temperature, there occurs the high pressure. Because of that differences in air temperature, pressure belts created, like there is an alternate bands of low pressure and high pressure, again low pressure and high pressure. So these these pressure belts result in the formation of planetary winds. These planetary winds are the permanent winds. They blow from one particular direction all throughout the year. Like I told you, the trade winds, westerlies, and polar easterlies. These 3 types of winds, we discuss it one by one. Trade winds. Trade winds blows from the subtropical high pressure belt to the equatorial low pressure belt. In the northern hemisphere, they blow from northeast. Because of this Coriolis force, they deflect towards the right. So these winds are known as northeast trades. And in the southern hemisphere, they blow from southwest, southeast. So they are known as southeast trade winds. In the southern hemisphere, they deflect towards the left. So these are the 2 trade winds according to their name: northeast trades and southeast trades. There are 2 types of trades. In the northern hemisphere, they are known as northeast trade, and in southern hemisphere, they are known as southeast trades. They converge in the equatorial low pressure center. Here between this 0 to 5 degree latitude lies the equatorial low pressure. These 2 winds, northeast trade and southeast trade, converge in this zone. So this area is known as ITCZ, Intertropical Convergence Zone. That is also very important in our Madhyamik examination, in objectives or in abbreviation full form. You have to write the Intertropical Convergence Zone. This equatorial low pressure center is known as intertropical convergence zones because northeast trade winds and southeast trade winds converge here. And in the northern hemisphere, they move inshore. That is why they bring rain. Offshore, that is why they cannot bring rain in the western part. Northeast trades bring rain in the eastern part of the continents, but southeast trade winds do not bring moisture, so they cause rain. That is why most of the deserts are located in the western part of the continents. These trade winds are called trade. They steadily flow in same direction. To blow and trade is the notation. To blow and trade means to blow in a same direction in a steady, and the velocity of this northeast trade winds is about 16 km/h. So these are about the trade winds. Next is westerlies. Westerlies in the northern hemisphere blows from subtropical high pressure belt to the subpolar low pressure belt. This westerlies deflects to in the northern hemisphere, so they get the direction southeast, southwest. That is why they are known as southwesterlies. And in the southern hemisphere, they move from subtropical high pressure belt to subpolar low pressure belt, and they deflect towards the left from the northwest, so they get the name northwesterlies. In the northern hemisphere, they move in different because of the presence of continents. Their velocity is not much, but in the southern hemisphere, because of the absence of land masses, one more thing I forgot to tell you is wind moves faster in an open oceans or deserts because the velocity of the wind is obstructed by the presence of mountains, trees, buildings. Because of the friction, the velocity decreases. But in the southern hemisphere, because of the absence of land masses, these westerlies move very fast, so they are known as, in different latitudes, they have different names. Like in 40-degree latitude, they are named as roaring 40s. In the 50-degree latitudes, they are known as furious 50s, and in 60-degree latitudes, they are known as screaming 60s, because they are the seamen also call these westerlies as the brave west. These are about the westerlies. Now is the easterlies, the third type of planetary wind. This polar easterlies blows from the polar high pressure belt to the subpolar low pressure belt. Wind always moves from high pressure to low pressure. In the northern hemisphere, they blow from northeast, so they are known as northeast polar winds. And in southern hemisphere, they blow from polar high pressure to subpolar low pressure belt. They blow from the east, southeast. That is why these polar easterlies are southeast polar winds. As they blow from the polar regions, these winds are severely cold winds. So these are all about the planetary winds. The second type of the wind is periodic winds. Periodic winds are of 5 types: land breeze, sea breeze, mountain wind and valley wind. Land breeze. As I already told you in my previous class, the property of land and water. Land gets heated very fast and cools very fast, whereas the sea warms up slowly and cools down slowly. So during the daytime, because of the heat, the land gets heated and the low pressure air rises up So low pressure is created in the land areas. But as it is coming from the sea. Next is land bridge. During night, at night the land cools fast, so here high pressure centers are created, and the low pressure, because of the warmth of the ocean water, low pressure comparatively warmer than the land, so low pressure centers created in ocean. So the wind moves from the high pressure to low pressure, or from land to sea, so they are known as land bridge. Next is monsoon wind. Monsoon wind, it is the modified form of land and sea bridge. It is a seasonal wind. Monsoon is a word derived from the word mausim, meaning season, Arabic word mausim, meaning season. It is a seasonal wind. During summer, land gets intensely heated. This Asiatic part gets heated. Here, low ocean. Here in the South Indian Ocean, high pressure centers develop, and the wind blows from the ocean towards the land. These are southwest monsoon. As it is moving from the ocean, it carries some moisture. So it is torrential rain and summer monsoon. And in winter, the condition is reversed because of the this is because of the position of Earth in its elliptic orbit. During summer, vertical rays falls on the Tropic of Cancer. So in winter, the condition is reversed. Our northern hemisphere remains away from the sun. So, winds are dry winds, dry offshore winds, so they do not hold moisture because they are coming from the land. But before, after crossing this Bay of Bengal, they bear some moisture. They hold some. So these are winter monsoon that comes from the northeast. That is why the winter monsoon is northeast monsoon. As I already told you in the part, that wind gets its name from its direction. So it is blowing from the northeast. That is why this monsoon wind. Winter monsoon is northeast monsoon, and summer monsoon is southwest monsoon. Then is the mountain winds and valley winds. Mountain winds. During daytime, the land gets heated and the wind moves from the valley towards the slope of the mountain. They move upward. So if it is coming, it is rising above. So they are going towards the mountain up. That is why because of the low pressure, because of the high pressure at the top and low pressure at the bottom. Because the top gets heated, because of its height, it gets heated. So here high pressure, low pressure prevails. So wind blows from high pressure to low pressure. So these are moving up towards the mountains. They are known as mountain winds. Next is valley wind. At night, the land gets cooler. The valley top is cooler than the valley bottom, and here prevails the high pressure. and at the bottom prevails the low pressure. So wind tend to move from the top towards the valley. Another type of wind is local wind. Local wind means in a particular local area that blows in one particular area, locally blowing winds because of the unequal heating and cooling, or because of the presence of high pressure and low pressure, this wind blows. And these are of two types, warm winds and cold winds. Warm winds blow from the upper regions. These are the descending winds, and cold winds blows from the colder regions, like from mountains, they blow, and that is why they are known as cold winds. There are number of warm winds and cold winds. Warm winds, according to our syllabus: Fawn, then Chinook, Sirocco, Lu. These are the different types of different names of local winds, warm local winds that blows in different parts of the region. Like Fawn in the Alps, Alps mountain of Europe. It blows from Alps and from the leeward side. Like I show here, we'll discuss about the type of rainfall in my next class, that the students have done in smaller classes also, the orographic rainfall. Orographic rainfall, because of the presence of this mountain, this rainfall happens. What happens is the sea, from sea the wind, because of the temperature, the water vapor rises or wind warms up, and it moves from the sea along the slope of the mountain, and after reaching some level, condensation level, clouds are formed, torrential, after crossing the saturation level, the torrential rainfall occurs in this side, leeward side of the mountain. But as it crosses, it becomes dry, and it descends to along the slope towards the rain shadow area, and these winds are the warmer winds, and they do not bring rain, they are warm winds. That is why it has become lighter and it is going downwards. This type of wind, because of the presence of Alps mountain, in the western side of the Alps mountain, this wind can bring rain, but towards the eastern side, it blows as a fawn, that is a warm wind, and it helps in the increasing the temperature of this Switzerland. This is one kind of warm wind. Another is Chinook. Chinook is also a warm wind which blows in this Rocky Mountain, which blows from the Rocky Mountain, and it brings it raises the temperature of this central United States and Canada. So the same mechanism, it is also a descending warm wind which melts the snow here in North America and Canada. So this Chinook is also known as snow eater. Snow eater. This is a warm wind. Another wind, that is Sirocco. It is the wind of Africa. Here is the Sahara Desert, and the wind blows from Sahara towards the Mediterranean Sea, And this Sahara has a red dust, red sand, and this wind also carries some moisture from the Mediterranean Sea along with the sand and covers the parts of this Italy, European states, European countries, and this brings red dust. So they are also known as, Sirocco is also known as blood rain because of the presence of red sand particles in the wind. Next is Lu. It blows in the northern part of India, in the northern plains of India during summer season. The hot gusty winds that blows in the northern part of North India, northwestern India, this is known as Lu. These are the warm winds. And cool winds blow from cold. Mistral and Bora. According to our syllabus, there are two types of cold wind, Mistral and Bora. Mistral and then Bora. Mistral blows Spain and blows in European countries, that is Mistral in Spain and Bora in this Adriatic Sea. Here near this Italy, there is an Adriatic Sea. From here blows the Bora. It is a cold wind. According to syllabus, there are other different winds also there, like Pampero. Pampero is in the book it is written warm wind, but it is a cold wind. Pampero, which blows in the Pampas, that is a temperate Pampas. In Pampas, this is another kind of Pampero, kind of cold wind. Please students do the correction. Pampero is not a warm wind, it is a cold wind, cold dry wind. These are about the local winds. Next is sudden or irregular winds, cyclones and anticyclones. Cyclones and anticyclones. Cyclone forms because of the high pressure. Wind always blows from high pressure to low pressure. Another type of wind is sudden or irregular wind. That means suddenly this wind blows because of the unequal high pressure and low pressure, because of the development of high pressure and low pressure. And the wind, two types of sudden winds are cyclones and anticyclones. Cyclones are the spiral wind which moves towards the low pressure centers. Wind which moves spirally towards the low pressure center is known as cyclones. And the anticyclones are the spiral movement of wind from the high pressure towards the low pressure. As we know, wind always blows from high pressure to low pressure. So cyclones are the spiral movement of wind towards the low pressure centers, and anticyclones are the spiral movement of wind from the high pressure centers towards the low pressure. And there is a difference between cyclones and anticyclone. In the northern hemisphere, because of this Coriolis force, wind deflects towards the right in the northern hemisphere and towards the left hemisphere. That's why cyclones moves anti-clockwise and like this, anti-clockwise in the northern hemisphere and clockwise in the southern hemisphere. Northern hemisphere anti-clockwise, anti-clockwise in the northern hemisphere and clockwise in the southern hemisphere. Just cyclone is the anticyclone. So, in the northern hemisphere, anticyclone moves clockwise in the northern hemisphere and clockwise in the southern hemisphere. This is because of the deflation, that is because of the Coriolis force. And one more thing is the cyclone brings stormy weather, thunderstorms, violent weather, destruction and all, but anticyclone brings calm weather. The recent cyclone we have experienced in the year 2019 is funny, and the cyclone gets its name from the alphabet. Alphabetically, the name is given to the cyclones from A, B, C, D, and this funny is from the F. So, there is a difference between cyclone and anticyclone that with the help of column I can show you the difference. So, these are all about the types of wind. This cyclones are of two types. The cyclones are developed in two regions, that is tropical region and temperate region. In this region, as I already explained you how pressure belts are formed, how these cells are formed, that is Hadley cell, Ferrel cell and polar cell. I explained you in my previous class. So, these cyclones are the converging winds. So, the converging here in subtropical region, they formed in between the Hadley cell and Ferrel cell. So, they are known as tropical cyclone. And between the polar cell and Ferrel cell, there is a convergence of cool winds. Here forms the temperate cyclones. There are two cyclones. There are tropical cyclone and temperate cyclone. And there is a difference between cyclone and anticyclone. These are the two types of cyclones. Tropical cyclones and the convergence zone between the Hadley cell and Ferrel cell, and temperate cyclone in the convergence zones between Ferrel cell and polar cell. Cyclone and anticyclone. Here low pressure center, and here high pressure. Pressure condition is low pressure at the center in cyclone and high pressure at the center in the cyclone. Here the formation of clouds which results in torrential rain, thunderstorms. Here is a clear sky. Clear sky prevails in anticyclones. Wind moves in anti-clockwise. Anti-clockwise direction in northern hemisphere and clockwise in southern in anticyclone wind clockwise in northern hemisphere and anti-clockwise in southern hemisphere. Cyclones bring violent wind or thunderstorms. Anticyclone brings calm weather. Cyclones are destructive in nature. Anticyclone is mild in nature. So these are all about today's class. Before ending my class, I just want to revise all the things which we did today. That is, wind, which is the horizontal movement of from the high pressure towards the low pressure, how winds occur because of the unequal heating of land and water, because of the presence of high pressure and low pressure. Wind always blows from high pressure to low pressure, and the types of wind, that is planetary, local winds and the sudden or irregular winds. And planetary winds, there are three types of planetary winds: trade winds, westerlies and polar winds. Periodic winds are five types: sea breeze, land breeze, monsoon wind, mountain wind, and there are two types: warm wind and cold winds. Irregular winds are two types: cyclones and cyclones are tropical cyclone and temperate. So go through the chapter, go through the book, and we will discuss the presentation in the next class. Thank you.
Good morning, सबलाई र आज लाइफ साइन्स को थर्ड क्लास मेराबाट तिमीहरुलाई थाहा छ हामीले के डिल गर्दै थियौं र पनि एकखेप तिमीहरुको रिभिजनको लागि हामीले कन्टिन्युटी अफ लाइफ सेकेन्ड च्याप्टर अफ लाइफ साइन्स क्लास 10 बाट गर्दै थियौं। त्यसमा हामीले पढ्यौं क्रोमोजोम, त्यसको केमिकल कम्पोनेन्ट्स पढ्यौं, टाइप्स अफ क्रोमोजोम पढ्यौं, साथसाथै हामीले organelles, cell organelles which are directly or indirectly involved during cell division. Cell division हुँदाखेरि कतिवटा organelles हरु directly or indirectly involved भएको त्यसको विषयमा पढ्यौं। साथसाथै हामीले सेल डिभिजन भनेको के रहेछ र सेल डिभिजन किन हुनु पर्ने रहेछ त्यसको विषयमा मैले लास्ट क्लासमा डिल गरेको थिएँ र आजको टपिक टाइप्स अफ सेल डिभिजन। सेल डिभिजन लिभिङ अर्गानिजममा तीन प्रकारको सेल डिभिजन पाइन्छ: माइटोसिस, एन्ड मियोसिस। कुनै पनि लिभिङ अर्गानिजममा यो तीन प्रकारको सेल डिभिजन पाइँदो रहेछ। माइटोसिस कहाँ पाउँदो रहेछ, कसमा हुँदो रहेछ यो सेल डिभिजन भन्दा अकरेन्स prokaryotic organism, those organism whose nucleus are not well organized, nucleus राम्रो organized नभएको, example bacteria, unicellular organism, especially in lower groups of plants animal. Lower groups of plants animal class 9 मा taxonomy section मा तिमीहरुले पढ्यौ। फर एक्जाम्पल फंगी एन्ड एल्गी को विषयमा त्यो प्लान्ट्स एनिमल्स मा पनि तिमीहरुले अमाइटोसिस भन्ने पाइँदो रहेछ। नम्बर अफ डॉटर सेल प्रोड्यूस्ड, एक खेप अमाइटोसिस डिभिजन कुनै पनि सेल चाहिँ एकखेप अमाइटोसिस डिभिजन हुँदाखेरि कतिवटा डटर सेल प्रोड्युस हुँदो रहेछ भन्दाखेरि 2 र हामीले यहाँ देख्यौं सेल डिभिजन देयर आर 3 टाइप्स अफ सेल डिभिजन नम्बर 1 अमाइटोसिस mitosis and meiosis. Ameiosis division they occurs in prokaryotes and lower groups of plants and animal. The number of daughter cell produced during ameiosis division is 2. र तिमीहरुको जानकारीको लागि तिमीहरुले रिप्रोडक्सन पढ्दाखेरि जुन तिमीहरुले asexual type of reproduction fission भन्ने पढ्छौ FISSION त्यो फिशन को टाइपमा तिमीहरुले बाइनरी फिशन भन्ने जुन पढ्छौ ब्याक्टेरिया रिप्रोड्युस हुने मोड त्यसलाई पनि खासमा बाइनरी फिशन पनि अमाइटोसिस डिभिजन हो माइटोसिस body cell mitosis they are also known as body cell division हाम्रो बडीमा ग्रोथ को लागि रिपेयर को लागि जुन सेल डिभिजन चाहिन्छ that is mitosis which is found in eukaryotic cell multicellular organism like us हाम्रो बडीमा बडी सेलमा कुन प्रकारको सेल डिभिजन पाइँदो रहेछ भन्दा माइटोसिस example skin different organs like liver kidney etc number of daughter cell produced एकखेप माइटोसिस डिभिजन हुँदा दुईटा डटर सेल प्रोड्युस हुँदो रहेछ फेरि एकखेप बुझाइन्दैछु 3 प्रकारको सेल डिभिजन हुँदो रहेछ अमाइटोसिस माइटोसिस एन्ड मियोसिस अमाइटोसिस प्रोकार्योट्स लोअर ग्रुप्स अफ प्लान्ट्स एनिमल्स माइटोसिस बडी और सोमेटिक सेल मियोसिस अहिले केमा हुँदो रहेछ त्यसको विषयमा पढौं र माइटोसिस कहाँ पाइँदो रहेछ भन्दाखेरि बडी डिफरेन्ट अर्गनमा नम्बर अफ डटर सेल अमाइटोसिसमा पनि दुईटै हो माइटोसिसमा पनि दुईटै हो नेक्स्ट सेल डिभिजन मियोसिस मियोसिस कहाँ पाइँदो रहेछ भन्दाखेरि जर्म सेल means reproductive cell मा reproductive cell for example for animal sperm ovum हाम्रो स्पर्म बनिन्दा ओभम बनिन्दा त्यति बेला त्यो बनिनु अगाडि मियोसिस डिभिजन हुनुपर्छ इन केस अफ प्लान्ट्स ओव्यूल पोलनमा मियोसिस डिभिजन भएर उनीहरुको जर्म सेल या रिप्रोडक्टिभ सेल प्रोड्युस हुनु पर्दो रहेछ नम्बर अफ डटर सेल प्रोड्युस्ड एकखेप मियोसिस डिभिजन हुँदा 4टा डटर सेल प्रोड्युस्ड हुनुपर्छ र हामीले के थाहा पायौ भन्दा अमाइटोसिसमा 2टा माइटोसिसमा 2टा मियोसिसमा 4टा हुँदो रहेछ र हामीलाई जसरी गाउँ बस्तीतिर हामीलाई निकनेमले बोलाइन्छ मासघारीको छेउमा बस्नेलाई मासघारी जेठा जाडोमा पनि हापेने लाएर घुमिरहनेलाई हापेने कान्छा त्यसरी नै यो तीनटै डिभिजनको सेल डिभिजनको आफ्नो आफ्नो निकनेमै भनौं छ उनीहरुको माइटोसिसलाई इन्डाइरेक्ट डिभिजन और इक्वेशनल डिभिजन पनि भनेर चिनिन्छ फेरि एकखेप बुझाइन्दैछु माइटोसिसलाई इन्डाइरेक्ट डिभिजन अथवा इक्वेशनल डिभिजन मियोसिसलाई रिडक्सनल घटेर रिडक्सनल डिभिजन अमाइटोसिस डाइरेक्ट डिभिजन फेरि एकखेप हेरौं यहाँनिर माइटोसिस मियोसिस र अमाइटोसिसलाई उनीहरुलाई अरु नामले चिनिन्दो रहेछ माइटोसिस इन्डाइरेक्ट और इक्वेशनल डिभिजन मियोसिस रिडक्सनल डिभिजन अमाइटोसिस डाइरेक्ट डिभिजन र हामीले आउँदो क्लासमा माइटोसिसलाई किन इन्डाइरेक्ट भनेको रहेछ मियोसिसलाई किन रिडक्सनल भनेको रहेछ त्यसको विषयमा पढ्ने वाला छौं अमाइटोसिस डिभिजन ल अघि मैले के भने इट इज नोन एज डाइरेक्ट डिभिजन उलाई डाइरेक्ट डिभिजन पनि भनेर मानिन्छ किन भन्दा During mitosis division, cell divides directly without the formation of spindle fiber. Spindle fiber भन्ने प्रोटीन फाइबर तिमीहरूले माइटोसिसमा देख्छौ. सेकेन्ड सेल डिभिजनमा प्रोटीन फाइबर जस्तो यस्तो यस्तो हाल देखाइन्छु. त्यो नभई न्यूक्लियस र साइटोप्लाज्म एकैचोटी डिवाइड भएको कारणले गर्दा अमाइटोसिस डिभिजन भनेको. एक्जाम्पल ब्याक्टेरिया, यीस्ट र एमिबा. एमिबाको मैले यहाँ स्लाइडमा एक्जाम्पल दिएको छु. अमाइटोसिस डिभिजनलाई डाइरेक्ट डिभिजन किन भनेको रहेछौ तिमीहरूले यहाँ बुझ्छौ क्लियरली. पोर्सन भयो, यो साइटोप्लाज्म पोर्सन भयो. यहाँ हामीले के देख्यौँ भन्दा न्यूक्लियस पोर्सन सँगसँगै साइटोप्लाज्म पोर्सन पनि डिवाइड एकैचोटि डिवाइड भएर 2 डटर सेल प्रोड्युस भयो. विदाउट द फर्मेसन अफ स्पिन्डल फाइबर. स्पिन्डल फाइबर सेन्ट्रोजमले यहाँ फाइबरहरू बनाइरहेन. त्यो कारणले गर्दा अमाइटोसिस डिभिजनलाई डाइरेक्ट सेल डिभिजन भनेको रहेछ. फेरि एकखेप बुझाइन्दैछु. अमाइटोसिस डिभिजनलाई डाइरेक्ट डिभिजन के कारणले भनेको रहेछ भन्दाखेरि न्यूक्लियस सँगसँगै साइटोप्लाज्म पनि एकैचोटि डिवाइड हुँदो रहेछ. यहाँ स्पिन्डल फाइबरहरू भन्ने कुरोहरू केही पनि हुँदैन रहेछ. त्यो कारणले गर्दा माइटोसिस डिभिजनलाई डाइरेक्ट डिभिजन भनेको रहेछ. अब माइटोसिस र मियोसिस दुईटा रहेको हाम्रो जुन सेल डिभिजन थियो, माइटोसिस र मियोसिस, त्यो गर्नु अगाडि हामी पहिला सेल साइकल बुझ्नु जरुरी छ हामीलाई. र सेल साइकल चाहिँ के रहेछ भन्दाखेरि कुनै पनि सेल जन्मेको देखि लिएर ऊ मदर सेल भएर डटर सेलसम्म बन्निनुसम्म त्यहाँ थुप्रै इभेन्ट्सहरू छ, थुप्रै स्टेजेसहरू छ, थुप्रै फेजेसहरू छ. त्यो सेल पास हुनुपर्छ. र त्यस्तो फेजेसहरू चाहिँ नम्बर 1 इन्टरफेज एन्ड एम फेज. सेल साइकलमा या कुनै पनि सेल डिभिजन हुँदा there are 2 main important phases. Number 1 interphase, which is also known as the longest phase of cell cycle, and M phase. M phase भनेको चाहिँ multiplication phase, which may be mitosis or meiosis. फेरि एकखेप बुझाइन्दैछु. सेल साइकल माइटोसिस र मियोसिस बुझ्नु अगाडि यो बुझ्नु जरुरी छ. कुनै पनि सेल जन्मेको देखि लिएर मदर सेल भइन्जेलसम्म थुप्रै फेजेसहरूमा पास हुनुपर्छ. र दुईटा फेज मेन छ, द्याट इज इन्टरफेज एन्ड एम फेज. इन्टरफेज विच इज द लङ्गेस्ट फेज. यो इन्टरफेजलाई पहिलाको बायोलोजिस्टहरूले इट इज अल्सो नोन एज रेस्टिङ फेज, विच आई डोन्ट अग्री. पहिलाको बायोलोजिस्टहरूले चाहिँ यसलाई रेस्टिङ फेज भनेर भनिन्छ. कतिवटा टेक्स्ट बुकमा पनि तिमीले दिएछौ, तर म चाहिँ यसमा अग्री गर्दिनँ. सबसे एक्टिभ फेजै सेल डिभिजनको इन्टरफेजै हो. र इन्टरफेजको फेरि एकखेप हामी हेरौँ. सेल साइकलको 2 मेन फेजेस, इन्टरफेज एन्ड मल्टिप्लिकेसन फेज. मल्टिप्लिकेसन फेज मे बी माइटोसिस और मियोसिस. इंटरफेज को 3टा सब फेज छ. जी ग्रोथ 1, एस सिन्थेसिस, ग्रोथ 2 फेज. यो इंटरफेज को 3टा सब फेजेसहरू रहेछ, G1, S एन्ड G2. सोच तिमीहरू भोलि पिकनिक जाने अरे. पिकनिक जाने लागि एकैचोटि जान्दैनौ. पहिला के गर्नु पर्यो? अर्गनाइज गर्नु पर्यो. अर्गनाइज गरेर भोलि के लाने, खानापिना थुपार्नु पर्यो. त्यसरी नै सेल डिवाइड हुनु अगाडि ऊ प्रिपरेटरी फेज, द्याट इज इन्टरफेजमा पस्नु पर्यो. उलाई न्युट्रिएन्ट थुपार्नु पर्यो, डिएनए चाहियो, त्यो डिएनए बनाउनु पर्यो, प्रोटिन बनाउनु पर्यो. त्यो सब चाहिँ केमा हुँदो रहेछ? इन्टरफेजमा. प्रिपरेसन फेज भनौँ न, ऊ प्रिपेयर हुन्छ डिवाइड हुनु अगाडि. र यो इन्टरफेज चाहिँ 3 भागमा बाँडेको रहेछ. G1, S and G2. G1 growth जानेर चाहिँ यो G1 फेजमा ग्रोथ हुन्छ ग्रोथ सँगसँगै त्यहाँनिर RNA र प्रोटिन पनि बनिँदै गरेको हुन्छ यो तिमीहरूले देखिरहेको छौ यहाँ यो G1 फेजमा चाहिँ यो साइकल मदर सेल यसले सबसे पहिला न्युट्रिएन्टहरू ग्यादर गर्यो एक्युमुलेट गर्यो खानाहरू RNA बनायो प्रोटिन बनायो RNA बनाएर प्रोटिन बनाएर उ नेक्स्ट सब फेजमा पस्छ S सिन्थेसिस फेज S फेजमा पस्दाखेरि DNA बनाउँछ उले किनभने डटर सेलमा इक्वल नम्बर अफ क्रोमोसोम इक्वल नम्बर अफ DNA डिस्ट्रिब्युट भएको हुनुपर्छ त्यसले गर्दाखेरि उले DNA यहाँ बनायो DNA बनाइसकेर उसको सायद न्युट्रिएन्टहरू सकियो र उ डिभिजन पस्नु अगाडि फेरि त्यो न्युट्रिएन्ट त्यो प्रोटिनहरू उले बनाउनु पर्छ त्यसले गर्दा उ G2 फेजमा पसेर आउँछ फेरि यहाँ ग्रोथ along with DNA and protein synthesis takes place फेरि एकखेप बुझाइन्दैछु यो डल्लै तिमीहरूले यहाँदेखि यता उता देख्दैछौ that is interphase longest phase of cell cycle which is subdivided into G1, S and G2. These two phases are growth phase where DNA, RNA and protein synthesis takes place. S phase मा चाहिँ DNA बनिँदो रहेछ र after G2 or interphase G2 phase सकेर चाहिँ त्यो सेल चाहिँ पस्नु पर्छ नेक्स्ट लेभलमा that is multiplication phase which may be of mitosis or meiosis phase मा यहाँ पसेको हुनुपर्छ आइन्दा त्यो सेल आफ्टर कम्प्लिटेसन अफ इन्टरफेज सकेर G2 फेज देखि M फेजमा पस्नु मानेन फेरि एकखेप बुझाइन्दैछु सेल साइकलमा सेल डिभाइड हुँदा इन्टरफेज सकेर G2 देखि चाहिँ M फेजमा पसेको हुनुपर्छ त्यो सेल आइन्दा त्यो सेल M फेजमा पसेन M फेजमा मल्टिप्लिकेसन फेज भएन उसको भन्यो भने त्यति बेला त्यो स्टेज या त्यो फेजलाई G0 or arrested phase पनि भनिन्छ G0 or arrested phase र फेरि एकखेप G0 or arrested phase को after the completion of interphase if the cell do not enter into M phase multiplication phase मा पसेन भने त्यति बेला G0 or arrested phase or quiescent phase पनि भन्छ त्यसलाई quiescent phase arrested phase or G0 phase which is generally seen our nerve cell हाम्रो nerve cell जुन न्युरोन छ त्यसमा प्राय देखा पर्छ त्यो फेज र एकखेप यहाँनिर इन्टरफेज के रहेछ यहाँनिर G1 मा ग्रोथ RNA र प्रोटिन बनिँदो रहेछ S मा DNA बन्यो G2 growth and synthesis of RNA and protein यो चाहिँ हाम्रो इन्टरफेजको सब फेजेसहरु भयो र इन्टरफेजको सब फेजेस सक्दा त्यहाँनिर एक दुईवटा चेक पोइन्टहरु छ कुनै पनि सेल डिभाइड हुँदाखेरि यो सेल डिभिजनलाई कन्ट्रोल गरेको हुन्छ देयर आर सर्टेन प्रोटिन एन्ड एन्जाइम्स कतिवटा प्रोटिन र एन्जाइम्सले डल्लै यो सेल डिभिजनलाई कन्ट्रोल गरिरहेको हुन्छ र ड्युरिङ इन्टरफेज यो इन्टरफेजमा देयर आर टु चेक पोइन्ट त्यहाँनिर दुईटा चेक पोइन्ट छ याद गर्नु यो क्वेशन मार्कमा सोध्छ या सोधेको छ पहिला देयर आर टु चेक पोइन्ट which is present in between G1 र S यहाँ एउटा चेक पोस्ट या चेक पोइन्ट छ and G2 and M phase सेल साइकलमा दुईटा चेक पोइन्ट छ जसले चाहिँ सेल डिभिजनलाई कन्ट्रोल गर्छ त्यो कन्ट्रोल गर्ने चाहिँ प्रोटिन अथवा एन्जाइम्सहरु त्यसमा इन्भल्भ छ G1 र S मा यहाँ चेक पोइन्टले चाहिँ यहाँनिर RNA प्रोटिन बन्ने कि बन्नेन न्युट्रिएन्ट एम्पल छ कि छैन भरिपूर्ण छ कि छैन त्यो सब भयो मात्रै एस फेजमा पसेर आउँछ। एस फेजमा आइसकेर जब डिएनए बनिँदाखेरि प्रोटिनहरू जब यहाँ सकिँदै जान्छ त्यहाँदेखि जी फेजमा पसेर फेरि ग्रोथ स्टार्ट हुन्छ। ग्रोथदेखि मल्टिप्लिकेसन फेज पस्नु अगाडि त्यो सेल सेकेन्ड चेक पोइन्ट पास हुनुपर्छ र आइन्दा त्यो चेक पोइन्टहरू यहाँ मैले एक्जाम्पल दिएको छु। प्रोटिन्स लाइक cyclone and enzyme CDK. CDK को full form cyclone dependent kinase. This is enzymes. Cyclone dependent kinase and this type of protein CYCLIN cyclone controls cell division. र कहाँ पाउँदो रहेछ आइन्दा यो चेक पोइन्टहरू यो चेक पोइन्ट स्ट्रिक्ट भएन अलिकति लुज भयो भने सेल डिभिजन एब्नर्मल हुन्छ। सेल डिभिजन को प्रोसेस मा डिस्टर्बेन्स आउँछ। जबसम्म यो चेक पोइन्टले चेक गरेर सेल डिभाइड नर्मली हुँदछन् दैट इज नर्मल डिभिजन। चेक पोइन्ट लुज भयो यिनीहरूले चेक गर्न सकेन भने एब्नर्मल सेल डिभिजन हुन थाल्छ व्हिच इज भेरी हार्मफुल टु अस। र एब्नर्मल सेल डिभिजन भएछ भने चाहिँ यो अघि पर्सन फेसको एब्नर्मल सेल डिभिजन भन्नुको मतलब ऱ्यापिड सेल डिभिजन। सेल डिभाइड चाहिँ एकदम ऱ्यापिडली हुन थाल्छ विदाउट एनी सेल डिफ्रेन्सिएसन। जस्तै मेरो यो हात सानो काटिए अरे यहाँ रिप्लेस गर्नु लागि सेल डिभाइड हुन्छ। त्यो सेल डिभाइड भइसकेर सेल डिफ्रेन्सिएट हुन्छ। सेल डिफ्रेन्सिएट भनेको मेरो छालाको सेल भिन्दै हुनु पर्यो, मसल्सको सेल्स भिन्दै हुनु पर्यो। त्यसरी सेल छुटिनु लागि सेल डिफ्रेन्सिएसन हुन्छ। बट इन केस अफ एब्नर्मल सेल डिभिजन जब एब्नर्मल सेल डिभिजन हुँदाखेरि चाहिँ मासुको थुप्रो मात्रै थुप्रिँदै आउँछ हाम्रोमा सेल डिफ्रेन्सिएट हुँदैन। र त्यो बल्क अफ मिट त्यो मासुको थुप्रो जुन छ त्यसलाई भन्छ ट्युमर। ट्युमर के रहेछ भन्दाखेरि बल्क अफ मिट विदाउट एनी सेल डिफ्रेन्सिएसन। सेल डिफ्रेन्सिएट भएको छैन त्यहाँनिर सेल छुट्टेको छैन खालि त्यो एउटा मासुको टुक्रा मात्रै त्यसलाई भन्दो रहेछ ट्युमर। ट्युमर जुन छ यो ट्युमर दुई प्रकारको हुन्छ बेनाइन एन्ड म्यालिग्नेन्ट। बेनाइन जुन छ बेनाइन टाइप अफ ट्युमर चाहिँ नन क्यान्सरस नन हार्मफुल। यो हाम्रो लागि हार्मफुल हुँदैन। जहाँ जन्मियो तिनै ग्रो भयो अरे। सपोज मेरो ओम्लीको टुप्पामा एब्नर्मल सेल डिभिजन भएर ट्युमर त्यो फर्म हुने सेल फर्म भयो त्यहाँनिर ओरिजिन भयो त्यो सेल चाहिँ ती ग्रो भयो बेनिङ विच इज नट सो हार्मफुल। फर इक्जाम्पल मुसा कुद्ने मुसा होइन हाततिर पलाउने मुसा त्यो मुसा इज अ टाइप अफ ट्युमर बट इट इज माइल्ड ट्युमर भन्दा पनि हुन्छ त्यसलाई बेनिङ अर नट हार्मफुल। जहाँ जन्मियो ती पलायो त्यो ट्युमर भने चाहिँ द्याट इज बेनिङ। दिस इज नट हार्मफुल बट malignant this is harmful tumor or cancerous tumor। क्यान्सर जुन छ यो भन्दाखेरि सपोज मेरो ओम्लीको टुप्पामा क्यान्सरस सेल एब्नर्मल सेल डिभाइड हुने जन्मियो ओरिजिनेट भयो त्यो सेल चाहिँ ब्लड स्ट्रिम अथवा लिम्फ भेसलबाट बग्दै 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 गएर मेरो बडीको अरू पार्ट्समा जहाँ त्यो अड्क्यो ती ग्रो हुन थाल्यो। भन्नुको मतलब म्यालिग्नेन्ट ट्युमरमा साइट अफ ओरिजिन एन्ड साइट अफ ग्रोथ चाहिँ फार हुँदो रहेछ टाढो जग्गामा। जहाँ जन्मियो टाढो जग्गामा गएर ट्युमर फर्म हुँदैछन् चाहिँ म्यालिग्नेन्ट विच इज क्यान्सरस। साइट अफ ओरिजिन एन्ड साइट अफ ग्रोथ सेम छ भने चाहिँ बेनिङ द्याट इज नन क्यान्सरस। फेरि एकखेप बुझाइँदैछु जब सेल डिभिजनमा डिस्टर्बेन्स आयो सेलको चेक पोइन्टले त्यसलाई चेक गर्नु सकेन एब्नर्मल सेल डिभिजन हुन्छ एब्नर्मल सेल डिभिजन भएको कारणले गर्दा ट्युमर फर्म हुन्छ ट्युमर दुई प्रकारको हुँदो रहेछ एउटा बेनिङ नन क्यान्सरस एन्ड एउटा म्यालिग्नेन्ट द्याट इज क्यान्सरस डिफरेन्स त्यही रहेछ एउटा चाहिँ लेस हार्मफुल या हार्मफुल छैन यो उयो चाहिँ हार्मफुल भयो यसको साइट अफ ओरिजिन एन्ड साइट अफ ग्रोथ आर सेम साइट अफ ओरिजिन एन्ड साइट अफ ग्रोथ आर डिफरेन्ट होमवर्क यस प्रकारको छ नेम द लङ्गेस्ट फेज अफ सेल साइकल अघि मैले डिस्कस गरेको छु इन विच सेल अफ ह्युमन G0 फेज इज युजुअली सिन अघि मैले एरोस्टेट अथवा क्वासेन्ट फेजको विषयमा डिस्कस गरे त्यसकै क्वेसन यहाँ हालेको छु द सेल डिभिजन अफ द बडी सेल इज कल्ड हाम्रो बडीमा जुन सेल डिभिजन हुन्छ त्यसलाई के भन्दो रहेछ रिप्रोडक्टिभ सेल हाम्रो स्पर्म बनिँदा ओभम बनिँदा जुन सेल डिभिजन हुन्छ त्यसलाई के भन्दो रहेछ बाइनरी फिक्सन इज अ काइन्ड अफ डैश डिभिजन अघि मैले त्यहाँ भन्दैको छु इन विच फेज डिएनए सिन्थेसिस टेक्स प्लेस कुन फेजमा चाहिँ डिएनए प्राय यसको आन्सर लेख्दाखेरि मैले के थाहा पाएको छु भन्दा इन्टरफेज ठिकै छ इन्टरफेज लेख्दा हुन्छ तर ब्र्याकेटमा एस फेज भनेर लेख्दैम झन् दामी नेम वान एन्जाइम्स विच कन्ट्रोल्स द सेल डिभिजन कुनै पनि एन्जाइम्स मैले एउटाको इक्जाम्पल दिएको थिएँ तिमीहरूलाई सिडिके भनेर कुनै पनि एन्जाइम्सको नाम लेखिदेऊ जसले चाहिँ सेल डिभिजन कन्ट्रोल गर्दो रहेछ वाइ स्मोकर्स हेज द हाइएस्ट चान्सेस अफ ह्याभिङ क्यान्सरस सेल ट्युमर म्यालिग्नेन्ट सेल प्रड्युस हुने चाहिँ किन सिगरेट खाने पार्टीहरूको खैनी तमाकु खाने पार्टीमा हाइएस्ट चान्सेस किन चाहिँ छ अरे के कारणले What is cell cycle? State the difference between amitosis, mitosis and meiosis. Difference लेखिराख्नु नेपालीको माध्यमिकमा माइटोसिस र मियोसिसको दुईटा डिफरेन्स लेख्नु आएको थियो तिमीहरूले तिनटैको लेखिदिनु र यति भन्दै आजको क्लास म यही समाप्त गर्न चाहन्छु थ्याङ्क यू वन्स अगेन
Hello students, as you all know that in the previous episode I completed lesson number 1. So today we are going to start lesson number 4, which is a poem, My Own True Family by Ted Hughes. So before starting the poem, usually what I do is tell you something about the writer or the poet. So in this case Ted Hughes. The full name of Ted Hughes was Edward James Ted Hughes. So in short, we can say Ted Hughes. So he was an English poet and especially known for his children's book. So Ted Hughes was born in 1930 and in 1984 he was appointed as a poet laureate. So poet laureate means a member of the royal household, which is normally appointed by the monarch, a king or a queen, with the advice of the prime minister. So a certain amount of salary is given to the poet laureate, and his work is to compose or write verse on special national occasions. So Ted Hughes, his important or major famous works were Birthday Letters, The Hawk in the Rain, and Tales from Ovid. So mostly Ted Hughes writes about animals. So like the other works were like crow and wolf hunting. So now let us come back to the title of the poem, My Own True Family. So here Ted Hughes through this poem wants to teach us a lesson or wants to say that, to bring out the topic that we human beings, we exploit Mother Nature. We human beings are so selfish that we exploit Mother Nature and never try to let's say, repair them. So he wants us, the readers, to realize that the exploitation which human beings are doing to fulfill their selfish desires are not so good. Because human beings, nature, human beings survive because of Mother Nature. So we have to take care and preserve our Mother Nature. This is what the poet tries to tell us through this poem, My Own True Family. Wants the readers to realize that Mother Nature is very, very important to human beings, for the survival of human beings, and we should not exploit Mother Nature. So, let us start. Once I crept in an oak wood. I was looking for a stag. So once the poet enters an oak wood, means oak in Nepali we can say katus. Katusko jungle, oak wood. So he enters the oak wood and he was searching for a stag. Stag means a male deer. Then I met an old woman there, all nobly stick and rag. So while looking for a stag or a male deer, instead of finding a male deer, the poet meets an old woman there in the oak wood. So she was all nobly, means unsteadily. So since she was an old woman, very frail and very weak, and because of that she was walking unsteadily, meaning in an unstable fashion, like an old person does. They cannot support their own body, that is why they, let's say, walk unsteadily. Similarly, the old woman was walking unsteadily. Stick and rag means she was weak and feeble, and the clothes she was wearing was all worn out. Worn out means it was very dirty, and it was, let's say, torn and patched up here and there. So the old woman she said, I have your secret here inside my little bag. So when the poet met that old woman, the old woman said to the poet, I have your secret here inside my little bag. So opening her little bag which she was carrying, she told to the poet that I have your secret, little boy, I have your secret inside my little bag. Then she began to cackle and I began to quake. Then the old woman started to crackle. Cackle means to laugh, especially in harsh and sharp manner. Like, let's say, in horror movies, how a witch, they make this, they laugh very, let's say, ominously, very, let's say, in a horror manner. So similarly, the old woman started to cackle, started to laugh, in a very sharp and very harsh tone. She opened up her little bag and I came twice awake. So when the old woman opened her little bag, the poet awakened twice. Now here, I came twice awake has been interpreted in two different manners. And one is, let's go back again to line 1 of the poem, the first line of the poem. Once I crept in an oak wood, I was looking for a stag, I met an old woman. So the first interpretation is that when the poet was looking for a stag, he fell asleep. And when he woke up, right, when he met the old woman, that is the first time that he woke up. All right. And then again, when the old woman opened her bag, saying that the old woman has the secret of the poet, and when she opened her bag, she again fell asleep. She fell asleep, and then when she opened her bag, that was a time when the poet again awakened for the second time. So that is the first interpretation. So first, when the poet met the old woman, that is when the poet awakened for the first time. The second time is when she opened her bag. That was the second time that when the poet awoke for the second time. Now the second interpretation is that the poet, the twice awake means the first is the physical awakening of the poet. Physical awakening. And the second is, it refers to the spiritual awakening of the poet. So this is the second interpretation. Physical, first is physical, and the second is the spiritual awakening of the poet. So these are the two interpretations in the poem. So if any question comes regarding when did the poet awaken for the first time, the answer will be the poet awakened for the first time when he met the old woman. Right? And the second is when she opened up her bag. So if any question comes regarding the awakening of the poet, so you have to write those two things and not these two things. You can write these two things, but 10th standard, according to the 10th standard, we should not write physical and the spiritual awakening. So anyway, let's continue with the poem. She opened up her little bag and I came twice awake. So when the poet awakened for the second time, he is surrounded by a staring tribe and me tied to a stake. So when the poet awakened for the second time, he found himself tied to a stake. Stake means a wooden or an iron post. So over here, the poet finds himself tied to a wooden post. So when he awakened for the second time, he was surrounded by a staring tribe. So he found himself surrounded by the oak trees, who were, let's say, staring means looking at the poet. Now the third stanza, they said, "We are the oak trees and your own true family." Now the tribes over here are nothing but the oak trees. They are the oak trees itself. So the oak trees were staring at him, and when the oak trees found that the poet has awakened, so they said that we are the oak trees and your own true family. So we are the oak trees and we are your actual family. We are chopped down, we are torn up, you do not blink an eye. Unless you make a promise now you are going to die. So what did the oak trees tell the poet? That the oak trees has a complaint against human beings. And the complaint is that the oak trees are chopped down. Right? They are turned up. They are turned up means they are cut into pieces, hacked into pieces. You do not blink, and the human beings does this. That's it. They fell down trees, they cut down trees, and then they tear the trees into pieces, and they do this without any hesitation. Unhesitatingly, they chop down trees, they cut down trees, they tear them into pieces. This is the complaint of the oak trees to the poet. And the oak trees further says that unless you make a promise now, unless you take an oath now, you are going to die. Now the word now has been repeated. It has been repeated. People repeat gareka cha. So just to create a stress, just to focus more on the line that if you do not make a promise right now, then we are going to kill you. Then you are going to die. So this means that the poet is focusing, the poem is focusing on the line, that is the line that you should not cut trees. If you cut down trees, and the human beings will find it difficult to survive in this world. This is what they want the readers to realize. That is why they say, unless you make a promise now you are going to die. Unless and until you make a promise now, you human beings are going to perish from this world. Whenever you see an oak tree felled, swear now you will plant true. Whenever, so further, the oak trees tell the poet that whenever you see a human being cutting down trees, all right, you have to plant two instead of one. This is what the oak trees make the poet take a promise. And root you, unless you swear, the black oak bark will wrinkle over you. Until and unless you don't make a promise now, then we are going to tie you up with our branches and then bury you deep inside the ground, all right, from where you were born but never grew. Meaning that if the poet does not make a promise now, the oak trees are going to tie them up with their branches and then they are going to bury the poet deep inside the ground. So from where, the oak trees said that from where they were born but never grew, means human beings, they take birth in this world. And then what happens is it refers to the mental state of the poet, of human beings actually. Means human beings, they grow up physically, but mentally human beings have not developed. This is what the oak trees want to say to the readers. They have not mentally developed themselves. Now let's move on to the last stanza. This was my dream beneath the boughs. Boughs means mostly used in poems, means branches. So in verse, mostly we use the word boughs, and in prose we use the word branches. So boughs means branches. So all this was my dream beneath the boughs, the dream that altered me. Altered means changed. So all these things was just a dream of the poet. But it was not any other dream which the poet had before. This was a dream which changed the poet completely. It changed the mentality of the poet. And the poet wants the readers also to change their mentality. That means we should not exploit human nature. Because the more we exploit human nature, the more we will find difficult to survive. When I came out of the oak tree, back to human company. So when the poet came out of the jungle, then he went back to the human company, means where people lived. The poet now finds himself in a changed situation, as a changed man. My walk was the walk of a human child. So he walked with the other people as a human child does. But my heart was a tree, means he was walking in, let's say, in a form of a child, but a tree at heart, means his heart was now filled with compassion for the trees. And this is what the poet tells the readers to think accordingly. That means we should also feel, our hearts should must be filled with compassion for Mother Nature, for the trees, and we should not cut trees. So this is, with this we come to the end of the poem. With this the poem ends. Now there are a few things which I would like to highlight. Now let's go back to the third stanza where the poet says, they said we are the oak trees and your own true family. So we are the oak trees. Normally trees do not speak. But in this dream, the trees, they speak. And in fact, they teaches the poet a lesson also. So over here, the trees, the oak trees, has been personified. Personification means a figure of speech. So if you happen to take Group A English in class 11, you'll have to study about figures of speech also. The mostly used figures of speech in poems are, let's say, metaphor and simile. Personification is another, let's say, figure of speech where non-living things or inanimate objects are given human attributes. Human attributes means human characteristics or character features. They think and they feel, they speak like human being does. This personification was also there in the poem called Fable, where the mountain and the squirrel speak. In reality or in real life, the mountain and a squirrel do not speak like human being does. But there they had been personified. Similarly, the oak trees have also been personified over here in this poem, My Own True Family. Personification or speech, that is personification, is used. Now let's move on to the second line of the poem. First stanza, second line of the poem, where the poet says, I met, and where the poet meets the old woman. When he meets the old woman, she was all nobly stick and rag. Stick and rags means very feeble, where she was wearing very torn clothes, all patched up clothes, all, let's say, dirty clothes and all. Now, stick and rag symbolizes the poor and let's say poor and exploited state of Mother Nature. Now, how human beings had exploited Mother Nature. So that is the symbol that stick and rag holds in this poem. And now we come to the end of the poem. Now you have, like any other comprehension, you have exercises also. So I hope that you are doing, after, let's say, going through these classes, you have been sincerely doing these works. I mean, like going through the comprehension exercises also. So all these things we are doing just for you. Right? So there has to be some effort from your side also. Right? So during this time of lockdown, make the most of it. Ramosanale your time utilized गर्ने, and then accordingly do the comprehension exercises which follows each lesson, each unit and each lesson. All right? So that is all in this poem. Thank you.